Good afternoon. Convening the Committee on Water, Land, Culture, and the Arts on our 1 p.m. agenda here in State Capitol Conference Room 224, today, Wednesday, February 4th. We have a number of measures on the agenda this afternoon. So I would ask folks, and I recognize there's a lot of testimony that's been submitted. And to help us make sure we can get through the entire agenda so that everybody has a chance to weigh in. For those who took the time out to join us today and who are on Zoom, we're asking folks to limit their comments to make sure that we can get through them. If there's questions, folks in the committee will be able to follow up and ask those questions. And if there are others who've said basically the same thing when it's your time, as long as we have your written testimony, if you could maybe elaborate on something that hasn't been covered, that'd be helpful as well. So that said, let's start with Senate Bill 2603 relating to the Hawai'i Symphony Orchestra, which designates the Hawai'i Symphony Orchestra as the State of Hawaii Symphony Orchestra. Testifying first on 2603 is the Attorney General. Good afternoon.
Chair, members. Ian Robertson, Deputy Attorney General. I'll keep it brief like you requested. We just submitted some testimony suggesting some additional language. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next is the State Foundation on Culture and the Arts. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Karen Ewald, Executive Director of the State Foundation on Culture and the Arts. Chair Lee and Senator Chang, we stand in support of this bill.
Thank you. Next is the Retail Merchants.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Aloha, Chair
And congratulations
Senators Chang.
on your position.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, and I need your support and help. My name is Dave Erdman, Interim President and CEO of the Retail Merchants of Hawaii, and we strongly support 2603. Just a couple comments. One is the formal recognition supports the arts education, cultural vitality, and even more diverse and resilient visitor economy, which helps all of us. So I just want to make that comment related to the visitor economy. Thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity to testify in support of this bill.
Thank you. Next is the Hawaii Youth Symphony. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Aloha, Senator Lee and Senator Chang. I'm Randy Wong, President and CEO of the Hawaii Youth Symphony, here on behalf of over 800 students all across the state, and many, many more who see great inspiration in the Hawaii Symphony Orchestra, all of its educational activities. We're very much in support, and we thank you for your consideration. Aloha.
Thank you. Up next is the Hawaii Symphony Orchestra. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chair, Committee. Thank you for having us. Dane Lamb, Music and Artistic Director of the Hawaii Symphony Orchestra. We stand in very strong support of this bill that would designate the orchestra, the State Orchestra of Hawaii, will continue to allow us to deliver on our mission to bring high-class, world-class music, keiki and kapuna, all around the state and continue to hold up Hawaii as an example of what a great state can be. Every state needs a great university, a great art museum, and a great symphony orchestra, and we're very proud to continue that tradition. Thank you.
Thank you. Signed up next on Zoom is the Hawaiian Steel Guitar Association. Mr. Williams, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to come here and just reiterate our wholehearted support. We stand behind our submitted testimony. Thank you.
Thank you. We also have, I'm eyeballing this, but probably about, I don't know, 4 or 5 dozen additional written testimonies that were submitted on this measure. Is there anyone else here with us today wishing to testify on this measure? All right, if not, are there any questions? All right, seeing none, thank you, everyone. Let's move on to the next measure. Senate Bill 2083 relating to state-owned historic properties and inherited lands, which establishes the State-Owned Historic Properties Preservation Plan Working Group within DLNR. Testifying first on 2803 is DLNR State Historic Preservation Division. Good afternoon.
Yeah, Chair, Vice Chair, Senator Lee. My name is Jessica Puff. I'm the Administrator of the State Historic Preservation Division. We stand on our testimony as submitted and are here for any questions.
In support.
In support.
Thank you. Up next is the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. With comments. That's all the testimony we have on SB 2083. Is there anyone else here wishing to testify on this measure? All right, seeing none, are there any questions? If not, real quick for Ship D. It's the danger of showing up as the only person who actually shows up because then all the questions are to you.
You know what? That's okay.
But you're also the only person that can answer them, so there's that benefit. OHA's raised a couple concerns in their testimony about duplication. One of the things that seems to be, is if I'm understanding the bill right, is to take a slightly different look at things and not duplicate the existing efforts that are going on, but rather look with a specific focus on state-owned properties and really everything therein. Is that how you read this?
Yeah, my reading of the bill is to do something that we're not actually doing right now and to essentially, or at least I see the opportunity to create a statewide database of state-owned historic properties so that we can have a better understanding of what the state is responsible for and then also how to manage those properties, which is not something that we are currently actively doing at SHPD or within any of our programs.
And then secondly, as far as, let's say, existing state properties, if there's a historic, I mean, technically this building probably qualifies, I'm guessing, among others, when there's maintenance or rehabilitation or other work that comes up, are you guys involved in that kind of discussion currently?
Yes, but it's on like a case-by-case, project-by-project sort of reactive basis. That kind of activity is triggered by HRS 68, where whenever there is a state project, that agency comes to us and consults on what their project is. That's a little bit different than my understanding of this bill, though, which seems to be more planning focused so that you have an understanding of what you've got, what you can do with it in advance of forming your project.
And in those cases, or any of those cases, whatever cases, do you have in-house architects or whomever it is that would be able to help guide that process?
Yes, we have an architecture branch in SHPD. Currently, we have a historic architect and an architectural historian who reviews all the projects that come in under any of the the 60, 68, 10, or 42. And we're in the process of onboarding 2 additional architectural historians.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Seeing none. Thanks. Let's move on to the next measure, which is Senate Bill 2341 relating to historic preservation, which authorizes SHPD to conduct a phased review of a proposed project on private property under certain circumstances and amends the process and deadlines by which SHPD must provide written concurrence or non-concurrence for a proposed project on private property or other project that requires entitlement for use, after which concurrence may be assumed and the project may proceed. On 2341, testifying first, I'm guessing, is Office of Hawaiian Affairs with comments, and SHPD. Welcome back.
Thanks. Very kind of you. Again, Jessica Puff, Administrator of SHPD. We stand on our written comments and support and are here for any questions that you have.
Thank you. Next is Office of Planning and Sustainable Development. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, member of the committee. Diana Setness with the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development. OPSD stands on its written testimony in support, and I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next is Sierra Club of Hawaii on Zoom. Good afternoon.
Uh, uh, Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Wayne Tanaka with Sierra Club of Hawaii. We have strong concerns about the phased review provisions of this measure. We ask that if you move it forward, that you take those provisions out. It just doesn't make sense to continue to endorse this idea of doing planning halfway before you commence projects, and it creates all kinds of potential for conflict and costly project changes and delays and potentially deep harms to the Hawaiian community in terms of impacts to historic preservation, historic properties, and EV. But yeah, happy to answer any questions, and thank you for this opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Up next here is Hawaii Association of Realtors.
Thank you, Chair. Senator testimony and support.
Thank you. Signed up next is, let's see, Walama Kakanilua, online, on Zoom. IT, is the testifier present?
Testifier is present on Zoom, Chair. It seems like they may have technical issues.
Okay, why don't we give them a second to sort that out? So if you can hear us, I'll circle back to you at the end of the testifier list. Up next is Evan Oy. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committees. Evan Oye from NAB Hawaii. We stand in strong support of this measure, and just want to highlight, we feel as though this is, needed, and we've in conjunction with SHPD, working on a policy balance for helping streamline the process for review. So we appreciate the committee hearing this bill and are open for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Signed up next is Tara Rojas on Zoom.
Not available on Zoom, Chair.
Okay, in opposition, also on Zoom, Bianca Isaki. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, aloha, Chair, and everyone. And I think Malama Kakanilua iPhone Claire was able to fix her issue. I'm testifying against SB 2341. I'm a local attorney. I litigate a lot of Chapter 6E historic preservation issues. I have several cases, including some where SHPD review happened like prior to when they actually had burial rules. So when they didn't have time to do, or when they didn't have enough review, and we're still dealing with the fallout
I'm unmuted.
from the disturbances to historic properties, specifically burial sites. And this was like, some of these are like from pre-90s. So what I'm trying to say is just that the bill will not have the effect of speeding up development, only prolonging conflicts that will be the consequences of these halfway reviews. So please don't pass it. Thank you.
Thank you.
You remember her name? Did she?
Yes, that was Bianca Isaki. Bianca. We also have, why don't we go back to the previous testifier from Malama Kakanilua.
Aloha, Chair, members. You can hear me?
Yes, we can hear
Am I
you.
muted? Okay, thank you very much.
Can you,
Claire Pana, present.
sorry, can you turn your video on as well?
I don't know. Hang on. Can you turn on the video? Okay. The
Unable
video
to see
doesn't
you
seem to
there.
be working. I know, it doesn't seem to be, the screen doesn't seem to be connecting.
All right, why don't you go ahead for the moment. We'll figure that out after the fact.
One sec.
Please proceed. Are you able to hear us? No? Okay. Why don't we circle back again? Is there anyone else here wishing to testify in this measure this afternoon? All right, seeing none, are there any questions?
Yes, Bianca.
Oh, yes, Vice Chair.
Bianca. Bianca, are you still there on Zoom?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Question, you're in opposition, but in understanding the Kelikini suit as defined by the Hawaii State Supreme Court, it has some merit with regards to what was decided then, and it's in opposition to the bill before us. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Afterwards, there were some changes in law to kind of undo the really important changes or the really important holdings of Kalakini. Correct. Thank you.
So they're saying that
Camera on?
rejecting the phased review then.
I'm sorry. Can you please ask me the question again?
Well, the Supreme Court did say that they rejected the phased review in SHPD, and so, but the bill before us is contrary to the court case.
Absolutely.
All right, I guess we'll have to decide what we're going to do then, but there is a conflict.
Well, the courts were basing it on existing law, and now I guess the speed group or the is trying again to phase review, and we're opposed to that.
And that's why I think Sierra Club is against it as well.
I understand that. Yes, Wayne's here if he has more questions.
Well, the Native Hawaiian Legal Corp too has sent testimony against this measure as well. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you. I see we have our other testifier online. You got your video working there. Please,
Okay.
if you'd like to testify, go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. Clara Pana, President Malama Kakanilo. I actually testified for the first time you tried to do the phase review, and it turned out to be such a mess with the rail. And with the rail, it was a phased review for Maui Lani, the residential project district, where every single project that was phased found more EV. And there's neighborhoods with like 3 lots full of EV. This is not the way to protect and do the job. Better planning is what is needed. And I have to say that even in the last year, the intermediate court found that DLNR SHPD is not allowing us to protect our iwi kupuna. I didn't see, Jessica, you didn't invite me to even be part of this. I am so upset by that. I mean, I went to get an actual change that would have been helpful. And that would have been to have better archaeology and better implementation by SHPD of archaeologists and their reports, which are really the problem, one of the big problems. I think that the consultation in preparing this has skipped the people who are really affected and who could give you practical solutions for this. But you have allowed SHPD to be in charge of this, and the way they run things is really the problem. We are not in favor of phased review. We are in favor of having better consultation with SHPD, which they can skip us anytime they want to, because it is not mandated in
Becky, if you could
any
please
way
summarize and
that
wrap
is
up.
known. Yes, I think you have missed the point of how to make this better, and making SHPD have less time without improving the way that they are able to monitor
you.
the
Thank you very
the
much.
review they.
Okay, was there anyone else we missed who is wishing to testify? All right, seeing none, back to questions. Were there any other questions?
Yes,
Vice Chair.
Jessica, please. Jessica, did you have a chance to review the court case and the question I asked Bianca with regards to the compatibility that has to do with the bill before us? Because it's contrary to what the courts decided at that time.
I think that.
And I'm sorry,
so
this
go
is
ahead.
not an administration bill. but,
Yeah.
And we need to understand that as well, so, knowing that you didn't introduce the measure.
Yeah, I think that there is potential for concern. I am not a lawyer, so I would leave that up to our AGs to interpret the appropriateness of phased review. I think in the comments that we provided, I think I asked for language to be added that would allow for a programmatic kind of review, which is something that's allowed under the federal Section 106 consultation process, which allows for a project proponent to come to SHPD and consult with us on their total scope of work, even if the full scope of work hasn't completely been developed. And it establishes a programmatic alternative so that that entity knows when they need to come to us and to consult with us, but we're looking at the total parcel of land from the very beginning that the full development will occupy, to understand where the historic resources are, where the iwi kupuna are. So as the project develops, we can keep those resources in mind and have a plan of action for how to avoid, minimize, or mitigate the effects to those historic properties in particular. So that could be an alternative to trying to do a phased approach, is to proceed with a programmatic approach, which isn't getting in the realm of segmentation, which I think is the larger concern, right?
Okay, all right. Chair, can you ask if any of the AGs around is here?
I don't believe the AGs testified, but were there any?
Did they testify?
I didn't see any.
Okay.
Were you guys?
I have a question then, not with regards to the item, but in general. Come, because you need to be heard. And sorry, as a former mayor, I understand what my corporation counsel and the lawyers tell me. Whenever there's an incident or something that happened in court, no matter what it is, and then subsequent, we have legislation by the legislature. It seems like reversing, I guess the court case. And so it's always put on to us to make decisions, knowing that they already have court cases. So in general, what would, a recommendation be now? Well, this one goes to judiciary anyway, so perhaps maybe, Chair, if we want to move this, then it can be clear, if we should create legislation contrary to what has been, in a case decision in courts.
Understood. I'll make sure this question is passed on.
Yeah, but I'm kind of surprised that with this measure, there was no interest in the AG's office to follow a bill like this, because, we're going through a process. We're all busy people, and then we end up moving measures, and then we end up dying because of a court case. But because we already know there was a court case, where should we leave this measure? And that's just my opinion. Okay, but if you can carry this on to the AG's office.
Yes,
And someone can follow, and if the chair, if we decide to move this because it goes to judiciary, then it can be addressed at that time. And I'm willing to, support the chair, whatever he wants to do. All right,
Thank you.
thank you so much.
Thank you. I have one follow-up for SHPD as well.
Sure.
Thanks. Looking at just at the testimony in general, some of the concerns raised, in addition to what Vice Chair was talking about, looked at the distinction between public projects versus private projects. Do you have particular thoughts on that?
Like the difference in treatment between the two of those within the bill? I think the differences in treatment are reflective of the existing 6E8, which are projects that are being sponsored by like a governmental entity in some ways, a way to summarize it. And then 6E10 refers to projects that impact historic properties that are listed in the Hawaii Register of Historic Places. I think that there are similarities in terms of the 6E compliance process for both of those review processes, in that they both require early consultation with SHPD as opposed to when you're about to get a permit or break ground, that kind of thing, which is often the case with 6E42 for privately owned properties. This is probably getting everybody in their weeds, so I apologize. So because of those those similarities regarding when you come to SHPD, I think the language that is similar is also appropriate in terms of allowing for a programmatic approach to the management of historic resources, which I think this language, from my interpretation, is trying to get at, is to be a more proactive, planning-based approach to 6E as opposed to reactive, which is sort of the way that it's been up to this point. I don't know if that makes sense.
We'll go watch the playback and.
Okay, I apologize. I'm very much in SHPD land right now with this answer.
Yeah, thanks. The other thing that was noted here was just the timeline for approval that was raised. Do you have a sense of right now, currently, kind of what the typical timeline is?
For an average review?
Yeah.
It depends on the completeness of the submittal, and I think that's also what the language of adding the language that requires a complete submittal, which is something that SHPD is very supportive of. We will get applicants that will submit a partial submittal either because they're not sure how to do or what they need for complete submittal. And sometimes we get applicants that will submit something just to get the proverbial clock started so that they can use that to say, well, this has been with SHPD for months. And in reality, we've been asking for months for more information. So the average review time for a simple project that like a normal person, one-time permit, individual may need is around like 56 days, I believe. That was the last average, the last time we calculated it a few months ago. So the prescribed timeline in this bill kind of matches up with it and it matches up with the timeline that's already in the 6E regulations.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions on this measure? All right.
You know,
Vice Chair.
since you're on the task force, aren't you?
Yeah.
Did this measure about the court case ever come up with?
I don't recall there being discussion about the court case
Okay,
during
all
that
right,
task
thank
force.
you.
Okay, seeing no further questions, thank you, everybody. Let's move on to the next measure, which is Senate Bill.
Excuse me, are you still taking testimony?
We've moved on. Are you signed up to testify?
Yes,
Oh, did I miss you there?
I'm not sure.
Who's that?
What's your name?
Tara Rojas.
Oh, we did call you.
Yeah, so I just want to put for the record that there are a lot of things happening at the same time. And so, I'm thank you for
Why don't we, before
allowing
we
me.
fully move off the bill, why don't you take just a minute here, and if you'd like to weigh in on the bill, please proceed.
Yes, mahalo nui. So, Tara Rojas, I oppose, and this is part of my testimony that I really want to make sure that you all are not coming with your own decision pre-hearing, that you really take a look at the testimony submitted, because when you look and see the two different opinions, the profit and those who operate under pretty much opposite of those who are of this land, who are Aloha Aina, they support, and then those who are of Aloha Aina, who are of this land, Aloha Aina, they oppose. Now we know, and I really appreciate, if that was Jessica from Shittir or not, I really appreciate her because she did speak up at the Army Program comment meetings. However, in a nutshell, in the minute I have left to speak on this, and I really hope this gets you and that you do make the point of decision, in this day and age in 2026, 133 years of this continuous, those who have the money, those who are big agencies, corporations, departments, and the people with pull and, that they've had their way all this time. So if lineal descendants, if Kanaka are saying they oppose, that's what we really need to do. And this shift in this latest legislative session and process, we need to shift in 2026 because this has been happening over and over again. I'm just gonna say it like this. You wanna see this live in action? Where is the federal building built on? Ibi Kupuna. Where is Waikiki, Walmart built on? In Oahu and other islands over Ibi Kupuna. This has to stop. You cannot just do business as usual. It is 2026. We see what's happening in the world, injustice of human rights. You need to respect the rights of humans and of Iwi in Hawai'i. Mahalo. So I oppose this bill. Mahalo.
Thank you very much. All right, with that, let's move on to the next measure, Senate Bill 2306, relating to administrative fees, which makes permanent rather than repealing upon the adoption of relevant administrative rules, the Department of Land and Natural Resources authority to establish a transaction fee for certain services rendered by the Bureau of Conveyances for each recording in the Bureau of Conveyances and Land Court, and makes other changes. Testifying first on 2306 is the Hawaii Government Employees Association. Good afternoon.
Hi, Chair, Vice Chair, Luis Sebastian for HGEA.
Aloha.
We're in opposition to this measure and we'll stand on our testimony. But I do want to note that our opposition is to page 6, line 2, which authorizes the special fund to be used for qualified contractors within the Bureau of Conveyance. Thank you.
Thank you. I apologize. I'll just note we had late testimony in the last measure, 2341, from the Native Hawaiian Legal Corporation in opposition and Maui Chamber of Commerce in support. Okay, back to 2306. Up next, we have Mike Imanaka. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair. Mike Imanaka, Bureau of Conveyances. I'm the registrar, and
Oh, I apologize. We had you down as an individual.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries. I'm the registrar, Bureau of Conveyances, and we strongly support this bill. Basically, what it does, it makes the two recording fees equal, from 36 for land court currently to 41, which is the same as regular system. So it's more of an administrative bill that we feel that it's just correction of the fees. So we appreciate the opportunity to equalize the fees.
This is administration bill, yeah?
Correct. Well, it came from.
Yeah, admin bill.
Okay. That's all the testimony we had on 2306. Is there anyone else wishing to testify?
Can I ask him another question?
Seeing none, Vice Chair.
Okay, with regards to the opposition on, I think, was it, what section? What were you opposed to? Okay, do you have a comment with regards to the opposition? HGA's comments. Nui, why don't you come up and repeat the opposition again? Sorry about that. Sorry, Chair.
Nope.
Okay, you're opposing HGA's.
Yeah.
Can you state your opposition again?
Yeah, so we're opposing page 6, line 2, which authorizes the special fund to be used for limited use qualified contractors.
Okay, comment?
If we had enough employees to do it, or employees who didn't retire, we'd absolutely hire people, recruit people. But the challenges for this type of work is very specialized. So we have to look for support outside on a very limited basis. That we strongly support the union, but there is specialized technical work that has to be done outside of the scope of what people can do currently.
So question is, you can do contracts.
We absolutely can do contracts.
Would you consider doing a contract for a certain
Absolutely.
period
Absolutely,
and look at the situation.
absolutely.
On top of that, I think we'd be happy, I didn't see the final closing. Is this upon approval, this measure? I didn't
think
even
it is.
check.
I think it's
Oh,
upon
hold on.
signature. Actually, January 1st, 2027.
January 1st,
The act is,
2027, so
Section 6.
you'll have 6 months.
to do it,
Yeah,
absolutely.
it's not upon approval. Would that be enough time?
Correct.
Okay, all right. So will you consider then
Absolutely.
addressing the HGA's comments as well?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Any further
Thanks
questions?
very much.
Seeing none. Let's move on to the next measure on the
Wait.
agenda.
Aloha, aloha. Can you make sure to look up on the Zoom?
Was there someone else who had signed up that we did not call?
Yes.
Didn't have you signed up, but since it's no different than you sitting in the room, why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, mahalo nui. Okay, so Tara Rojas, I have 4 concerns of this and then recommend that you hold this bill 2306. The periodic review, it locks in an ongoing cost without a required assessment. Or required reassessment of like need, amount, or alternatives. That's the first one. Number 2, expanding DLNR discretion over fee use. It's kind of really broad. This discretionary language that allows for fee revenue to be used beyond narrowly defined operational needs, and it weakens fiscal discipline and reduces legislative and public oversight over how mandatory recording fees are spent. And number 3, state the concern that fees can now be set or adjusted without formal rulemaking, reducing transparency, again, public notice, and the opportunity for comment. And then 4, this is really important, that recording documents is not optional. It's legally required to protect, establish, or transfer property rights. Now, the concern is here. Permanent transaction fees functions as an access cost to the land record system. And so disproportionately affecting families handling probate, kupuna, small landholders, and people correcting title or historical record issues. And so with this, efficiency automation can be supported without eliminating accountability mechanisms. And this whole system and this day and age, accountability needs to be upheld. Right now, there's a Hawaii Elections Commission meeting going on. The chair doesn't want to follow Robert's Rules of Order and doesn't want to put on the agenda what the commissioners are wanting, and for the audit and for also the removal of the chair and certain board members. So accountability is super important. The people are speaking up, we're seeing this, and it needs to be made pono in 2026 and beyond. Mahalo.
Thank you. And not only for Ms. Rojas, but for everybody else, and if there's anyone else on Zoom, we always try to be mindful to give everybody equal time to testify. I think twice we've come back after the fact. I don't want to make that the norm because it's not fair to everybody else who took the time to show up and everything. So at the end of each bill, as we've been doing for many years, we'll ask if there's anyone else wishing to testify on a measure. So for those folks online, that is your moment to weigh in if you so choose, but we can't continue to take folks out of order when we've already moved on. It's simply unfair to other testifiers. So we'll let that go. But if you're ready to
Can I
go.
just clarify then? Just a really quick one then. So I was waiting for you to say that. I didn't hear you say that. And I thought you were just asking questions of who those who are testifying. So I was waiting for you to go, okay, anybody online?
I appreciate that.
And-
Yes, that's, I'll say it for anybody, whether you're online or in the room. So that said, let's move on to the next.
Chair, I
Vice Chair.
just found out, Bureau of Conveyance, you got to come back. Reason is, in the, when we looked at the dates, if you look on page 8, in section 8, it does say that act shall take effect January 1st, except that section 6 shall take effect on December 31st, 2026. So that's not going to work for the comments that HGA brought up. And that's in the bill. So we just talked about giving time for you to work it out, but it conflicts with the implementation dates. But it does say the act shall take effect January 1st, except that section 6 shall take effect December 31st, 2026. So that's not going to give you much time.
6 months.
It's okay?
6 months would be, it might be challenging, depends upon, you know,
It will be
to what
challenging.
extent. Absolutely.
Okay, all right. Well, December 31st, 2026 and January 1st, 2027 is just a day. So I'm sure, do you feel like you need a lot more time?
Well, I think
Because
if,
dates we can, we can work on. And
well, I think if anything, if there's substantive concerns, I
I
think
would, I
definitely.
would say like even January, the end of January, to me, makes more sense.
Well, I will support your wisdom. So,
Yeah, okay, we'll make the recommendation and see what the chair is.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, any further questions? Let's move on to the next measure, Senate Bill 2782 relating to notaries public, which requires the Bureau of Conveyances to void any recorded instrument that was fraudulently notarized when attested to by the purported notary public, requires the Bureau of Conveyance to allow title holders to suspend additional recordings in their title unless given prior authorization, certain to some limitations. So on 2782, testifying first is the Attorney General. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon,
Good afternoon.
Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Tina Tsuchiyama, Deputy Attorney General. We've submitted some testimony with some comments and considerations for your review. I'll be available for questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Up next is DCCA on Zoom, or in the room.
Aloha Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Emma Olson on behalf of the Office of Consumer Protection. We will stand on our written testimony in support. However, we would like to point out that there may be some drawbacks to relying on notaries to report fraud. We also strongly support House Bill 2615, which authorizes government agencies to record a notice when we find a document to be fraudulent. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next is Bureau of Conveyances.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair.
Good afternoon.
And members of the committee. Mike Imanaka, Registrar Bureau of Conveyances. We are offering the following comments that this bill authorizes the Bureau to void docs from notaries who attest to issues that comes up. We can also suspend recordings at the request of title holders. Normally and traditionally, the role of the Bureau of Conveyances is a ministerial role. We're not adjudicatory. So that's something that would be a pivot of what we normally do and would ask for more discussion on this. If this bill does keep moving, we do ask for appropriation for the fundings of extra positions and training. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me, can I ask a question? Sure. So where does the,
Wait,
your
hold on.
administrative?
Before you dive in, if it's all right, why don't we get through the
sure.
rest of the testifiers? Because
all
we're
right.
gonna,
Okay,
I'll turn into a thing.
okay.
Up next is Hawaii Association of Realtors.
Thank you. We stand on our testimony and support.
Thank you. And then we also had comments from Hawaii Financial Services Association. That's everyone who had signed up to testify. Is there anyone else in the room or on Zoom wishing to testify in this measure this afternoon? Seeing none. All right, Vice Chair, please take it away.
Hello. Okay.
Mike
I
again.
had my hand up and then it keeps getting lowered. sorry about that. Okay, so,
So, go ahead.
okay, so Tara Rojas, I'm gonna say this, and as a Kanaka ally, from a Kanaka Maoli perspective, this raises concern because land fraud and forged deeds historically have been tools used to dispossess Native Hawaiians, Kanaka Maoli of Aina. So any measure addressing fraudulent notarization must therefore include strong due process. Again, just the due process protections to ensure that corrective actions do not create new avenues for harm or abuse. And so the authority to void recorded instruments and suspend recordings, if not carefully limited, could unintentionally affect heirs' properties, probate matters, and long-standing family lands. I'm seeing in so many other meetings as well, the fact that, these fraudulent and these not even following the laws in place, and then just due process needs to be really adhered to. So clear procedures, time limits, and safeguards are necessary to ensure that these tools protect Kanaka Maoli rather than introduce new risks. So mahalo nui for the opportunity to testify. I'm not sure what's happening with the online. I did have my hand raised. Mahalo.
Thank you very much. Vice Chair.
Yes, Mike again. Mike, the role that you folks have at the Bureau is administratively.
Correct.
Doesn't it go to courts after?
Absolutely. So if there's an issue, it'll be taken upon a court, and that kind of supports the OCP's bill
Yes.
where an action would be taken by a government entity or an attorney. And that's we have our AG here as well.
Okay, a reason I bring that up is because this issue came before me when I was in this role as chair as well, but also to note that it goes to the courts. And so, the courts make that decision as
Absolutely.
well. And so if you hear the opposition, there's another layer that they could, probably ask for assistance or take it on further rather than dropping the case off at the outset on the administrative part. But just to let people know that there is a two-step process to the land
Absolutely.
court's decision, that it goes administratively to the Bureau and then it goes to the courts, right?
Two separate entities, correct.
Okay, has it been working well, or has the department been put in a process where there's a lot of complaints or comments coming in from the general public?
There's been concern since there's been recent cases, and the Bureau has responded by putting in security cameras and taking active measures to prevent fraud and to let the public know that we take it seriously, and we're working with the legislator to create very good legislation to prevent such actions in the future.
Okay, so in the work of the Bureau, then, the process is a good one. At least you do it administratively and go to the courts. Or what we're doing now is we're going to be eliminating the courts, right?
We're not going to eliminate the courts per se, but I think that's where it gives more power to the Bureau that in the past we didn't have. And it's a little blurry there that, within more discussions and clarification, there might be an opportunity to play that role. But really traditionally, the Bureau of Conveyances or registrars have been
Right.
purely administrative, ministerial.
Okay, all right, understanding that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chair.
Sure thing. One quick follow-up. I'm relatively new to this issue, I think. Vice Chair's much more in-depth on this than I am. But I did have one question, which was the title issue raised by the Attorney General, which is, I think, relating to notaries public. And in it, they raised a question as to whether or not in Section 1, there are a couple new lines added, which basically talk about suspending the recordation of additional documents against real property if the owner requests it to have a clearer nexus to notaries public, if the owner requests it. To address that concern, if we inserted notarized, so in other words, the language would read, the BOC would be required to suspend recordation of additional notarized documents against real property. Does that, in practice, for your purposes, change anything?
would like the Attorney General to clarify a little bit more on that.
Sure, if AG could come up as well.
What we're trying to do, or the Bureau's trying to do, is, keep that process ministerial. So if, right now our role is if a document is presented to us and it meets recording requirements, we're gonna record it. And we stay within that lane. Anything outside of that judicial, we defer to the attorneys to sort that out. That's not our role.
And if I may, I guess what to me that wasn't clear with the bill was whether it could be anyone could suspend recordations to their property or limited to people who, got a notification that their deed or other document recorded with the Bureau was fraudulently notarized. So this provision, the suggestion of 502B would, basically let any owner of any property, regardless of whether their document was affected by a fraudulent notarization, to suspend recordation. That's why we raised this issue, because that, allowance to suspend any recordation of any document, regardless of fraudulent notarization, seems a bit broad for the subject matter. So that was our only comment to that. Does that make sense?
So there could be some unintended consequences.
Or it's just prohibited in the Constitution that, the title has to have a nexus to the contents of the bill.
Well, it would affect, consumers or people out there who has issues. And I tend to agree with you. Well, reason I brought that up too is the introducer of this measure is an attorney as well. So that's why it's important for us to ask these questions, just to be clear. And where we are we really protecting those that needs assistance and has issues like, we've heard the opposition to make sure that, people have an advantage to addressing, their problems. And if they see something that prohibits them from taking a step, that's not good policy as far as I'm concerned, coming from legislators who wants to do something in statute. We need to protect everybody and not a particular sector. That's my belief anyway. Okay, but thanks for the comments and thanks for your involvement in addressing the issues. Yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Okay, any further questions? Seeing none, thanks everybody. Let's move on to the next measure on the agenda, Senate Bill 2756, relating to conservation enforcement, which appropriates funds for the purchase of equipment for the Hawaii Island branch of the Division of Conservation and Resources Enforcement at DLNR. Testifying first on 2756 is Hawaii County Council Member Goro Inaba, Holeka Goro Inaba. In support, and then testifying in person, DLNR. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chair,
Good afternoon.
committee members. I'm Jason Redula, I'm DoCare's chief. On behalf of the department, we'll stand on our written testimony and support. Thank you.
Thank you. That's everyone who had signed up to testify in person. Is there anyone else? Looks like there's one testifier online. Please go ahead.
Halanui. Tara Rojas, I submit testimony again with concern regarding SB 2756. So adequate equipment for conservation enforcement, yes, is important. However, with happenings that we've seen, that increased enforcement capacity, must be accompanied by clear safeguards. So mahalo nui for the discussion you just had on the previous one, and you have to do that for this one as well, to ensure that enforcement is pono equitable and not disproportionately directed at kanakamoli, subsistent practitioners, or community members exercising traditional customary rights. So for decades, conservation enforcement in Hawaii has too often been experienced as punitive rather than protective, particularly when enforcement priorities favor development interests while cultural practitioners face heightened security. Expanding vehicles and marine patrol assets without parallel commitments to cultural competency, community accountability, and clear enforcement priorities risk repeating these patterns. So if funding is advanced, it should be paired with transparency, oversight, and explicit direction that enforcement serves resource protection and community well-being, not continue harm. And I'm gonna just, my gosh, I gotta keep saying this as well. we see what happens when the issue, it's all tied in though. It has, because don't care what happened at Mauna Ala. The kahu, was targeted and was approached, by Docare. And so that's why I'm really proving that what I'm saying is built not just, a theory, it's because out of actual action that has happened. And the fact that we just had to testify against the weapons law because it was clear, it was not clear enough defined, could affect like what is a tool that subsistence hunters and gatherers, will use. So again, you really need to look at the how you said unintended consequences. So make sure it's transparent oversight and explicit direction, so that resource protection and community well-being is the focus, not harm, not continued harm. Mahalo.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else wishing to testify on this measure? Seeing none, are there any questions?
I have a quick one. Go ahead, please.
Oh, this is for Docare. Just wanted to quickly get the appropriations that you folks might be asking for these. I know it's not in your testimony, but wanted to see if we could also potentially include it in the committee report as well, Chair. But if you can go ahead.
If you're speaking to a dollar amount,
Yeah.
I think when we look at what the bill provides with respect to one marine vessel and 20 vehicles, we're looking at probably several $1 million here. My off the top of my head estimate is probably going to be at least $3 million.
For the vessel alone, what is that amount gonna be?
So with the vessel alone, with the kinds of vessels we've been procuring lately, we're looking at a cabin vessel, approximately 30 or so feet. That's probably at least $500,000.
And then the 20 patrol vehicles?
The 20 patrol vehicles will be very substantial considering what we need to buy. That's probably going to be at least $2 million.
Okay, thank you.
And just to add to the discussion is that this is Hawai'i Island. So that vessel, and we don't have one now, and thanks for preparing and following up on Oahu's new project that we gave you folks, Docare, doing marine surveillance, so that's appreciated. But just to let you know that the Big Island has two sections.
Yeah.
So the west and the east, and their Docare officers are in abundance doing the entire island.
Yes,
So that's why the vehicle numbers is much bigger than we think of an island.
Sorry, I asked those questions only because I've been on site visits on the Big Island and I see the needs.
Sure.
So that's the only reason why I ask. So, because I've been in the water with Docare, and then also when you talk about patrolling areas, I think it's pertinent to know that there could be additional, patrol in areas where there aren't, especially across Hawai'i Island. So, yeah, I know it's not my area. I just wanted to know. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, can you remain, Chair, can we call Tara? I'd like to ask Tara a question.
Aloha, yes.
You mentioned something that was quite disturbing to me when you made a comment with regards to Mauna Ala and Docare. I'm very familiar with both, divisions, but you made a comment that, can you state what did you say about Docare doing something against Mauna Ala?
Oh, no, just the fact that the issue and the disagreement with the true standing and what happened with their Mauna Ala, and just being.
What happened at the Mauna Ala that you're talking about?
So
I just wanted to make it clear, because just to understand that Docare does their own responsibility for all agencies. And I don't remember any incidences that had to do with Mauna Ala, and I just wanted to make it clear what you're saying is true. Please proceed.
Oh, so this was just mainly the fact that because of the disagreements of who should be there at Mauna Ala, that Docare was called and that they had to respond to the incident, and just the disagreement in cultural traditional practices by what previously has been done versus what is who and what is, really ruling Mauna Ala now, that there's this conflict, this disagreement. And just again, I'm saying this because I know don't care for doing good, but we also see the double edge, the sword of unintended consequences and continued the
I
community members,
understand.
yeah.
I understand, Tara. I just wanted to make it clear that DoCare has their own responsibility. Mauna Ala's administrative management of Mauna Ala rests with another division at DLNR. And so, okay, I just want to make it clear that DoCare does
to be
their
the responding party,
responsibilities.
you know what I mean? Yeah,
Okay.
mahalo.
All right,
Mahalo.
thank you. Thanks.
Any further questions on this measure? All right, seeing none. Thank you, everyone. Let's move on to Senate Bill 2161 relating to land use, which authorizes rodeos and rodeo activities on lands that are zoned for ag use and defines those terms. And testifying first on 2161, signed up, we have Department of Land and Natural Resources. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair. Stephen Domingo with DLNR Land Division. We stand by our written testimony in support with comments. I'm here for questions, and I believe Candace Martin is on Zoom if I can answer those questions. Thank you.
Are you at Land Division for Ag or DLNR?
DLNR.
Okay, all right, thanks.
And immediately next, signed up is indeed Candace Martin with Department of Land and Natural Resources.
Hi, Candace Martin, the Hawaii District Land Agent, and we stand on our testimony.
Thank you. Signed up next is the Hawaii Cattlemen's Council. Good afternoon.
Aloha, Chair Lee, Vice Chair Inouye, members of the committee. My name is Nicole Galassi. I'm testifying on behalf of the Hawaii Cattlemen's Council. We are in support of this bill. Passing this bill is important because rodeo is indeed an integral part of agriculture. Passing this bill will be beneficial for the industry, the participants of rodeo, and for those who are watching the rodeo. For the industry, because it develops the skills, the horsemanship, the ways to manage the livestock in a responsible way. For the participants, because it teaches them a way to be responsible for the animals they're taking care of. It gives them a pathway to a career in ranching. And then for the audience, it's one of those few times that we're able to connect the community with where their food comes from. So we ask you to pass this measure. Mahalo.
Thank you. I apologize. I recognize Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity is here on this bill. Oh, please come forward.
Aloha, Chair, members of the committee. Cedric Gates here on behalf of DAB. The department stands on its written comments, appreciating the author's intent of this measure, and we are working on ways we can streamline our processes with this rodeo program. So, thank you.
Thank you. And then Agribusiness Development Corporation, ADC.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, and committee members. We stand on our testimony and support.
Thank you very much. Hawaii Farm Bureau. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the committee. Brian Miyamoto here on behalf of the Hawaii Farm Bureau Rodeo Division. You have our written testimony in support. I think the Hawaii Cattlemen's Council eloquently articulated what purpose rodeos can serve. We liken it to something similar that the Hawaii Farm Bureau does, the Hawaii State Farm Fair, an agriculture activity that will help with education, outreach, showcasing what we do in agriculture. That's what rodeos can do. If I may list a few things that are in statute, Chapter 205, and I know that's been some maybe concern from some others about permissible uses. Well, recreational uses include day camps, picnic grounds, and farmers markets are in 205, solar's in 205. So again, rodeos are much stronger agriculture activities, and there are benefits to doing events that really bring our community together and showcase not just to our residents here, not just to those interested in agriculture and in the ranching community or industry, but also tourists, showing what we do in agriculture. And we believe this is a bona fide agriculture event and activity, and we ask for the committee and the legislature support. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Up next on 2161, signed up to testify is the ironworkers. Good afternoon.
Morning, Chair Lee, Vice Chair Inouye, Senator Lamosa, and Senator Chang. Cody Sula on behalf of the Ironworkers Stabilization Fund. We stand on a written testimony. However, I just wanted to highlight a few of our reasons why we're in strong support of this bill. Over the past several years, or how long it's been, we've always talked about how we can diversify the economy. This is one good way to help diversify the economy, help to give economic growth to, especially to our farmers and ranchers, which we've always talked about how can we support our agricultural business here. So we think that's very good. It'll create some new jobs for construction. If we can have these types of recreational venues, which we desperately need, does a few things. It helps the economy, helps grow construction. Also, like one of the previous testifiers mentioned, this can be a career path. We're seeing an uptick in crime. Programs can be made to help our youth to go into new careers for strong mentorship opportunities and give us something to do on a weekend and stay off of the streets. All right, so ironworkers in strong support. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have Gabby Lorenzo Baudet. I'm probably butchering the name, but good afternoon.
Good day.
Aloha,
Yes.
thank
you so much for having me. My name is Gabby Lorenzo Baudet, and I'm just going to read what I wrote to make sure that I'm efficient. Before I'm an employee or a spouse or a volunteer, I'm a mom, and that's where I'm coming to you all from. I stand in support of SB 2161. Being a mom is the most important role I will hold in my life, the role that will shape the people in my care for the better or worse. My children, biological or hanai, due to circumstances out of their control, are part of your community. How they are raised will mold the adults they become. Up-and-coming generations face different challenges than our grandparents and parents faced. Those before us knew hard work, laborious work, limitations, and true grit and dedication before receiving any type of reward. Our kids today face challenges that are larger, scarier, and overall the influences in today's society make growing up in Hawaii terrifying, quite frankly. We have the ability to make a difference in a huge way through approving this bill. Limitations are endless. People in the farming, ranching, agricultural fields are ridden with rules and laws that are set forth not to allow the gain of momentum for them, but to forestall them, to thwart progress and any real success. Farms without adequate water resources, ranchers without viable leases with longevity to make smart financial investments, and roadblocks for our agricultural workers here in our state that create more room for imported goods and less room for Hawaii grown, and restrictions on land use that prevent the very reasons we all do what we do. Where do you suggest we practice our profession? Where do people in our position go to raise our children and show them the way if we cannot utilize our lands that are zoned agricultural to practice the necessary skills to thrive in an ag-based industry? Do the ranchers just know how without any delegated areas to better their skills? Do my children and thousands more have to rely on the permits and use of county parks? Prohibiting the use of ag-zoned land and the lands of many others for the use of rodeos takes away from generations of children who depend on these lands to learn invaluable skills directly related to the future ability to properly lead businesses in this industry. Will we be the reason those after us thrive and work hard, or will
Gabby,
we
your
be the
time's up.
reason
If you
they
could please
struggle?
summarize.
Yes. I just want to cap this off by saying that I want to piggyback onto Nicole from Cattlemen's and say that this is a dignified career, and our children can then do animal husbandry, which is in support of everything that we are calling on people to help us with.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, it's everyone who had signed up to testify. Is there anyone else wishing to oh, all right, why don't we start over, yeah, come on up. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon,
Good
Chair,
afternoon.
Vice Chair, and committee members. My name is Dwayne Bautista. I'm employed by the Ironworkers
Stabilization Fund, Local 625. We're very strong support in Senate Bill 2161. The reason for it also is by passing this bill, we're going to have to start building construction. We're going to have to, it's going to require skilled labor. This construction is not just being built, it's going to have to be maintained. So with that being said, local residents is going to have a job that is going to cover all islands on constructing these rodeo venues. Second, that by having this, we can have new monies in the rural areas, which we should have farmers markets and whatever venue rodeo events that it would allow. And then the third, the venues give our youth a place, a safe haven to learn their culture, their Paniolo culture, and stick with it and have somewhere to go. And because I was reading the bill, it goes all the way back to 1908 with Purdy, Yakuwa Purdy. And then just recently in 2025, Hawaii brought home the championship with Cameron Haumea. He did the same thing what Purdy did 117 years ago. So by passing this measure, we are supporting the local jobs, small businesses, and the preservation of our heritage. Thank you for your time. Aloha.
Thank you. Please come forward. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chair.
Good afternoon.
Vice Chair and committee members. My name is Cliff LaBoy. I'm with the Ironworkers Local 625 Stabilization Fund. I'll make this real short and simple. We're 100% behind this bill. We urge you to please pass it. And you heard the rest of the testimonies from the rest of the people in this room, which is about 100% in support. We represent over 10,000 plus members, and we're all totally in support of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the room or online wishing to testify on this measure? All right, seeing none. Thank you, everyone. Are there any questions? Just for Department of Ag. Thanks. In your guys' testimony, you just raised concerns that enacting the language amending 205, basically the section would open the door to other uses and activities seeking equal treatment. Recommend that approval of rodeos and associated uses and activities follow the special permit process instead.
Yes.
Is there a way to amend the measure to address those concerns? Because ultimately, we'd still have to authorize a statutory fix or change to authorize any other practices, at least statutorily, beyond the scope of what this measure contemplates.
Aloha, Chair. Thank you. Cedric Gates from DAB. This is a bill that we've been in discussion with the author regarding how we can streamline these rodeo special use permits. I think the concern from the department is, as in our testimony, is we open this up for rodeos, for example. Does that create more precedent to put different types of events into this 205? The gist of our sentiment is that we want our ag lands put to best ag production use. And we appreciate the educational piece, and we appreciate all the great work that rodeos do to help be good stewards in our community. Really, what we're trying to figure out is what are all the pieces that are making the application process difficult for rodeos to apply. And within Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity, we're looking internally, how do we create sort of a checklist to allow for these things to happen within the current framework that exists under 205. But we are, again, open to further discussion, and we are in discussion with the author of this bill to see how that can be of assistance. But our subject matter expert on this bill, Earl, is unfortunately unavailable.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, to be clear, the concern isn't activities associated with a rodeo. So if there, for example, there's a rodeo, you're gonna have obviously somewhere for people to park and maybe concessions or stuff like that. It's the idea that there could be some other statute change that would ultimately allow for something else that's not actual like growing ag.
Yeah, I think this is really about the DAB leases, because DLNR allows for rodeos more frequently and doesn't have really the requirement to put these ag lands into ag production, right? And I think that's
And
where.
by permits.
Right.
Approval by the board.
Correct. So, and then on top of that, the leasing pricing for DAB leases are about $89 a year, where, for example, if you're doing commercial activities and become more of a commercial enterprise, that would change potentially the zoning as well as the lease costs for these DAB leases in particular.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions?
Yeah, so come to mind, I think your comments also include lands controlled by DLNR as well. And so, we already know that we're changing the statute in 205, and that's a concern.
Correct.
You're raising, which, rightfully so, because you're in agriculture, lands and parks. I was just wondering the impact of the Act 90, when we're transferring lands from DLNR to DOA. But specifically, it has to do with, once it gets to you, your control of 205 anyway.
Correct.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you. That's all I have.
Well, actually, just on that, for those lands the vice chair is speaking to that were transferred over, if there was a carve out just for those versus all ag lands, does that resolve the department's concerns?
That could potentially be a solution if that's a part of the transfer agreement between DAB and DLNR. Because as I mentioned, DLNR allows for recreational purposes for the lands.
Yeah.
And technically that's what we view the rodeos. And with the DAB requirements, again, putting our lands to ag production, that's where we are somewhat in conflict with this legislation.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thanks.
Okay, if there's no further questions, thank you, everyone. Let's move on to the last measure on the agenda for today, SB 2477, relating to cultural recognition, which requires DLNR to place historical markers acknowledging the landform on which the Hawaii Town Center is cited as Honolulu Island. Testifying first is DLNR, Shipty. Good afternoon, again.
Hello again, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. I'm Jessica Puff, the Administrator of SHPD, and we stand on our comments as submitted and are here for any questions.
Thank you. That's all the testimony we have in this measure. Is there anyone else wishing to testify in this measure in the room or online? Seeing none, all right, are there any questions? Nope. If not, just real quick for Shipty. In your testimony, you had identified the stuff that I think has come up in previous discussions on other things. How do you do a narrative? Who pays for that? All that sort of stuff. If this were to be a partnership, for example, with State Foundation on Culture and the Arts, which kind of does some of this stuff or has in the past, not only for this specific case, and I haven't talked to the introducer of the bill about this, but for kind of a broader program, because surely there's a ton of places around the state that are culturally significant. Is that something you'd be open to?
Yeah, I'm open to partnering with another organization. I'm also open to Shipty taking on the responsibility of like managing a marker program just for this Hawaii Kai area or statewide. I know other states and offices like SHPD do have marker programs. I believe my old office, the state of Michigan, used to manage the marker program until it was transferred to another division that sort of had like a standard marker for
demarking these types of locations. I think it's just, our comments are just purely focused on like, if this is gonna be constructed, like, what are the parameters of this? Is this something that SHPD is responsible for doing, or working with a local community organization and they dictate the terms of it? I think there's just a little clarity we were asking for.
Okay, thank you very much. Vice Chair.
Comment, yes. We did have identifying signage for each community wherever there were historical areas. And it had the signs on the highways or in a village and had the King Kamehameha sign. And it was something that was also developed by the tourism industry back then. Whatever happened to that program? Because there were signs that were made specifically identifying like all of the prime cultural stuff. Whatever happened to that idea? And I noticed, well, we used to have and called out on people from the mainland taking it. And I remember going to Orange County one day and visited a relative of mine, and I found our sign in somebody's yard. So they stole the sign, and because I guess they were from Hawaii, so can you check later to, and Chair, we did have a beautiful program, and there are still some available that you rarely see anymore, but I'm not sure if it was paid by and HTA wasn't formed then. So, and my history with being in the visitor industry dated back from 67 to 87. So, 20 years. So it's something during that decade. And there were beautiful signs, and it is perfectly what I think this is called for.
Just a sec?
Yeah.
Unless you're done?
Yeah.
I gotta take a quick break.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we're in for a recess anyway.
Yeah, okay, we're gonna take a quick
recess for decision making.
3-minute break.
Yeah.
All right, good afternoon. We're reconvening the Committee on Water, Land, Culture, and Arts. For decision-making on our 1 p.m. agenda here in State Capitol Conference Room 224, we had a number of bills, beginning with Senate Bill 2603 relating to the Hawaii Symphony Orchestra. Recommendation is to move this forward, but making a couple amendments, adopting the AG's amendments, clarifying the depth of history and ties the symphony has to the state, and clarifying its public purpose. Secondly, including as a purpose in Section 3C, provision for matching funds, authorizing use of that potential state support as matching funds for the provision of performances open to the public at state facilities, properties, and institutions, expanding potential opportunities there. In addition to the free admission for students and assistance with educational programming currently contemplated by the bill. And then finally, we'll blank out the funding, put it into the committee report as it goes on to the Ways and Means Committee. So any discussion on that? If not, Vice Chair for the vote.
Okay.
Chair votes aye.
Yes. Chair's recommendation on SB 2603 is to pass with amendments. Okay. Chair Lee goes aye. Vice Chair is aye. Senator Chang.
Aye.
Senator Lamusao.
Aye.
And Senator DeCourt.
Aye.
Okay, measure is adopted, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you very much. Moving on to Senate Bill 2083 relating to state-owned historic properties and inherited lands, which establishes the state-owned historic properties working group. Recommendation is to move this forward with amendments, adopting the DLNR recommendations to include the chair of the Cultural Resources Commission of each county or their designee, and chair of the Hawaii Historic Places Review Board. Secondly, addressing the OHA concerns raised in their testimony about duplication by clarifying in a new Section 2.6 that current properties not always maintained or rehabilitated to best standards reflecting their historic nature or intent, and including in the purpose the development of recommendations for how the state should accomplish this to properly maintain and preserve historic properties, as well as improve design, narrative, and historic significance of current and future public facilities to better reflect the higher standards for design, maintenance, and other considerations reflective of the greater narrative, public purpose, and importance of public infrastructure, which all public facilities should exemplify to the people, including consideration of best practices in other states for properties, facilities, and landscaping, such as establishing additional architectural positions or architect of the state to help inform project decisions and others. We'll also include a member from DAGS in the working group, include the chairs of the committees with subject matter jurisdiction over historic preservation from both the Senate and House. And that goes on to the Ways and Means Committee for further consideration. Oh, and to effect the date. So any questions on that? All right, seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Okay. Chair's recommendation on SB 2083 is to pass with amendments with 5 members present, anyone voting with reservations, any no votes. Measure is adopted, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. For the next 3 measures, Senate Bill 2341 relating to historic preservation, which is the phased review discussion we had, SB 2306 relating to administrative fees, and SB 2782 relating to notaries public. We'd like to defer decision-making to Friday, February 13th at the end of our agenda here in this room, conference room 224 at the state capitol. We'd like to take some time to work with the stakeholders to see if we can figure out some of the issues that were raised in testimony. Moving on to Senate Bill 2756 relating to conservation enforcement, which appropriates funds for the purchase of equipment. We'd like to move this forward as is, noting that the appropriation in the bill is currently blanked out. So what we'll do in the committee report is ask the agency to kind of give us a figure for what is being requested and what that's for as this goes into the Ways and Means Committee so they can better evaluate the bill. But we'll move it on as is. Any discussion, questions? If not, Vice Chair.
Chair's recommendation on SB 2756 to pass unamended with 5 members present, anyone voting with reservations, any no votes. Hearing none, Vice Chair, measure is adopted.
Thank you. Moving on to Senate Bill 2161 relating to land use. This is the rodeos on ag lands bill. Again, we'd like to take some time to chat with the stakeholders to work out some of the details as well as the introducer of the bill. So we'll defer this for decision-making to Friday, February 13th at the end of the agenda with the other bills. And the last one on the list is SB 2477 relating to cultural recognition. We'd like to move this forward with amendments, amend the bill to have DLNR, State Historic Preservation Division, partner with State Foundation on Culture and the Arts to standardize a design for markers most appropriate for places of historical or cultural significance throughout the state, which shall include a historical narrative explanation or anything else as might be appropriate. And in the sorry, I just lost my train of thought there. Oh, and we'll have SFCA fund these initial set of markers for Mauna Lua as a first pilot project, and we'll defect the date. Any questions? If not, Vice Chair.
Chair's recommendation on SB 2477 to pass with amendments with 5 members present, anyone voting with reservations, any no votes. Hearing none, Chair, measure is adopted.
Thank you. As all the measures on our agenda today, and just to clarify, we're going to have, for all those measures that were deferred till Friday, the 13th for decision-making, that'll be here in this room at the end of our agenda after our 1 p.m. hearing. Okay?
Thank you.
Do that. All right. Thanks very much, everybody. We're adjourned.